Hello and welcome to the latest episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I'm your host, Eric Smith, and today I'm talking about Gestapo Mars by Victor Gischler. This is from Titan Books, and it is slippery, apparently. It is a Carter Sloane novel, which makes it sound like there's a series of these, but I couldn't find any other information on Carter Sloane. I think this is his first adventure that we're privy to. And Carter Sloane is a trained assassin, and much like Winter Soldier from Marvel Comics, when he's not on assignment, he is put in cryogenic sleep. And so at the beginning of the book, he's woken up, and he finds out that he's been cryogenically frozen for 258 years, which really pisses him off. But he is given a new assignment. He needs to hunt down a woman known as the daughter of the Brass Dragon. And so he goes off on his assignment, and he learns about what's been going on for the past 258 years, and his assignment keeps changing, and there's an alien invasion going on, and he just moves from one crazy adventure to another as he tries to fulfill his ever-changing mission, and that essentially is Gestapo Mars. So Victor Gischler, right off the bat, I was introduced to him when he was writing an X-Men comic book. I believe that's the first thing I read by him. I think he's the gentleman who, I believe, he resurrected Dracula in the Marvel Comics and turned Jubilee, the mutant hero, into a vampire, and I loved it. So, of course, when I found out he was an author, I went and hunted down his books and started reading his novels and things. And he writes crime novels and funny-ish horror novels. Most of his stuff has a very funny edge to it, and this is no exception. I mean, you just look at that cover, and you know it's going to be something really out there and bizarre and funny. And it is, and it's it reminded me of some of the sort of men's pulp kind of books from the 70s and 80s, where your hero was, you know, like a man's man and pretty much had sex with every woman he met, which happens in here, which is, I think that's the biggest thing that reminded me of that, is Carter Sloane definitely is a slut. He engages in physical relations with quite a few women in this story, and it reminded me of those books from back in the day, and I used to read those occasionally. There were westerns and sci-fi and just action adventure series that had these kinds of stories and heroes and everything, and this really kind of a throwback to that. But a modern day version throwback, if that makes sense. It definitely has a modern day sensibility, and Carter Sloane is an interesting, complex character. He does work for the Third Reich, and their base is on Mars. This is a galaxy, or at least solar system, galaxy spanning story. You do have these sort of gelatinous blob aliens that are invading the human sphere. Excuse me. So Carter Sloane has to deal with that, as well as trying to complete his mission. And seriously, it just keeps changing. His mission does. He gets his initial orders, and then he's working on that, and then no, we changed our mind. We're going to do this instead. So then he starts working on that, and they're like, what? No, wait a minute. Let's go back to the first thing. So there's a lot of that going on, and there's changing power structures and people with different agendas and all sorts of interesting characters, and the structure of society in this future. And I don't recall if it actually says what year this is taking place. It has to be quite a bit in the future. We do have interstellar travel. He's been asleep for 250 years, and obviously that's when he was put to sleep 250 years ago. We were already pretty well into the future, I would say. So, definitely a wild, funny, science fiction, over-the-top pulp adventure story. And as Carter Sloane goes through this story, he meets all sorts of interesting characters, aliens and humans, and there's all sorts of crazy action. You have ray gun battles and spaceship battles and spaceships. No, the spaceships don't have sex. Just Carter Sloane having sex on spaceships and planets, different planets, and all over the place. Kind of a James Bond in the future, I guess, is another way to put it. Just getting his jollies all over the place. But this might sound like it's just some, old trash pulp. And while it has that feel to it, it is much more sophisticated. I believe that's the word I used earlier. And it is incredibly well written. And the characters are very interesting. Carter Sloane meets a woman who, I think she's 80. She's very old, but has had enough surgery that she looks like she's in her 20s. And she's the type of person who wants to feel like she's doing something for the resistance, because there is a resistance in here. So she's rich, and so she does things that can allow her to say, "Oh, I'm helping," without really helping, except she gets involved with Carter Sloane and gets dragged into this, and actually it becomes part of the conflict outside the safety of her rich life. And she's a very interesting character. Some of the military people we meet along the way are interesting. Victor Gischler, even the smaller characters, he helps flesh them out, and some of them are very, very funny. There's one, I should have written his name down because I don't think I can find it very quickly, but there's almost a drill sergeant type character who's very funny, with a very funny name that I didn't write down. So you're going to have to read the book to find out what it is. But yeah, it's don't let the title scare you off. Gestapo Mars, a very exciting, very fun, very funny book. And I'll tell you what, I wasn't gonna draw any Gestapo type of stuff. So because of that fun retro space opera, over the top kind of feel, I went with just kind of an old-fashioned ray gun, almost a Buck Rogers, Flash Gordon kind of thing, and I gave it 5 out of 5. 5 out of 5 Flash Gordon-y, Buck Rogers-y ray guns, because really this is great entertainment. If you just want to have a good time and read some wild science fiction, you know what? I don't often do this, but I'm going to read one of the blurbs on the back. James Rollins, who is a New York Times bestselling author, whom I love, writes some great stuff. He says, part Christopher Moore, part Quentin Tarantino, Victor Gischler is a raving badass genius. And I can see where that's coming from, because you've got a really outlandish world has been built for this. it's odd to find yourself rooting for someone who's an assassin that works for the Third Reich, but it's really not the Third Reich as we think of them. Again, so far in the future. Extraterrestrial espionage with sex, violence, and Nazis. That's from the back of the book right there. I recommend it. Have a good time. Laugh and cringe and shudder. It's just it's fun. I really like Victor Gischler. I've liked his comic book stuff that I've read. I've liked his other books that I've read. I'm looking for more from him. He does have a mini-series from Marvel coming out called Spirits of Vengeance that's going to have Ghost Rider, Blade, the son of Satan, Satana, who's the daughter of Satan. That looks like it's going to be really good. I've already pre-ordered it. Comes out, I think it starts in October, I want to say. But yeah, Victor Gischler is a guy I always look forward to his stuff, and you should too. So, Gestapo Mars, 5 out of 5. Pick it up. I'll have links for it in the description below. If you have any comments, questions, or corrections, please put them in the comments below. Comments are open for spoilers. Just post a spoiler warning. So if you want any more specifics on the story, let me know and we'll talk about it down in the comments. Please like, share, and subscribe. And that's it for this episode of the Low Budget Review Show. I have been your host, Eric Smith, and until next time, read more books.